welcome back to AR77. Thank you so much for joining me once again today. On the table in front of us, we've got two classic replica air guns. On the left hand side, we've got the Beretta Model 84 FS, and on the right hand side, we've got the Beretta Model 92 FS. Both classic guns, both classic Umarex replicas actually, which at first glance do look very similar. This looks kind of like a smaller version of this, and yet there's far more to it than that. They are very similar, but they're also very different in a number of ways, just like their real steel counterparts. Before we go down that rabbit hole though, please do give me a like, a share, a subscribe, hit that bell so that you get notified of any future videos. It does help me to know what sort of things you like so that I can cater some of the content to what sort of stuff you like watching. Also, I like to throw some things at you that perhaps you weren't looking for. That's the difference between a human and an algorithm. You get to see things that you weren't necessarily looking for, and that keeps things interesting, as well as seeing more familiar content that you do like on guns you are more familiar with. Okay, let's get back into this then. As I said before, both of these look very similar. Both share that kind of exposed barrel design, which is kind of synonymous with the vast majority of Beretta handguns. Not all, of course. You've got the PX4 Storm and you've got the APX, but traditionally, certainly the older handguns and still most Beretta guns have that kind of exposed barrel design. The 92 is a larger pistol, obviously. I'm guessing that's because it was developed for combat. The combat designation was the M9, and it kind of superseded the 1911 in terms of the US forces being allocated this as their kind of handgun of choice, or them selecting this as their handgun of choice, I should say, for their sidearm. Yeah, and this is kind of it carries a slightly larger round. This carries a standard 9mm 9x19. This was chambered in kind of, I think it was 380 ACP originally, which is a kind of a 9x17 millimeter round. So a slightly smaller gun, slightly smaller round. And I'm guessing as well, I don't know this, but I'm guessing the 84 or the 80 series or 81 series as it's sometimes called, this being one of them, this is being the 84 FS. I'm assuming these were developed for the civilian or the kind of the police, law enforcement market, I guess. But please feel free to enlighten me on that or any of the other blundering gaps in my knowledge. I should also point out, I know that a lot of you will recognise this gun as the Cheetah, or will refer to it as the Cheetah. This is the Cheetah, it's not a different gun, it's just the official designation, or the original designation was the Model 84. So I will continue to call it the Model 84 because I think it sits nicely. While I'm calling that Model 92 FS, I'm going to call that the 84 FS. But you're absolutely right, it is the Cheetah, it's not a different gun. Both of these firearms, I guess the real steel ones, were introduced in kind of the mid-70s, with the FS versions following some time after. They were kind of progressive stages of their development. In the case of the 92, it was kind of early to mid-80s, I think it was, when they updated to the FS, and there were a number of cosmetic changes, as well as internal changes as well. I'm not sure when the 84 became the 84 FS, but once again, maybe you can tell me that. We can see here that we've got the, where does it say it? There we go. We've got the, can you see that? Will it focus for me? Model 84 FS version there. And here, let's have a look. Model 92 FS. So these are the FS replica versions. Now, one of the things about these Berettas, I suppose you could say, is that this exposed barrel design kind of splits opinion. Some like the look of it, some really don't like the look of it. Some say it makes it easier for you to attract dust and dirt and grime and stuff into there. Others would say it makes the gun easier to clean. In terms of my ownership of these two guns, neither of those things are really a concern. They're both really easy to clean, the guns. They're both not going to attract a load of dirt and grime because I don't run around shooting them in those sorts of conditions. I don't use either of these in in a combat situation, nor are these airsoft guns. So it's not like I'm trolling around the fields and in the wildlife and stuff, getting stuff in the guns themselves. I guess if you are into airsoft, maybe that's a factor. I don't know. Please, again, let me know. I've got nothing against airsoft, and there's some great airsoft guns out there. I don't know, for some reason I prefer the 4.5mm or 0.177 caliber versions. Okay, so let's walk around both of these guns side by side and compare the two. So they're both full metal replicas of full metal guns, which does give them a good weight and feel. These guns were designed before there was the trend of the polymer wonder, the polymer framed or plastic framed handguns like the Glocks and the more recent kind of Smith and Wessons and HKs. And Berettas now. But these were sort of full metal, real steel firearms at a time when that was the primary method of manufacture. If anything, the 92 FS feels... I've never held an actual 92 FS, but this feels heavier, potentially, than the actual real firearm. It does feel good in the hand. It does. I like that, and I would say most of us owners who own one of these, that's one of our favourite things about them, is the feel of that heft. Again, as replica owners, we like our guns to feel heavy a lot of the time, even if it's cumbersome. We like to feel that we've got that kind of weight in the hand. This feels great also. This feels realistic, I'm assuming. It certainly feels authentic. How I would imagine it to feel. It's a decent enough weight. There's plenty metal there. But yeah, it's good to have that, I think, in replicas, that weight where you should have it. And then in the ones like the Glocks, for example, that have polymer sort of frames, it's good to know that they are far more light in terms of their maneuverability, how it would feel to own one, or more importantly, use one in any given situation. That's part of the enjoyment, is kind of going, okay, so imagine I was in a particular situation and this was my gun of choice. How would it feel to handle that? How would it feel to maneuver that? How dexterous could I or would I be with that particular pistol? So on with the similarities. Both of these guns have a kind of an unmarked front sight post with this kind of, at the rear here, if I can get it nice and close, you've got kind of a notched half circle at the back there, if you can see that, how it lines up there. It's like a little half circle. It's the same for the 92 FS. You've got that front sight post there, and again that kind of notched half circle. So decent enough sights, no white dots there. Further along, sticking with the similarities, both have kind of angled serrations at the rear. I guess part of the reason for this video is if you're looking at these and thinking, okay, apart from the price, what is the difference between these two guns? I'm trying to do a side-by-side comparison. I honestly don't think you would be in the market for one or the other. I think if you're unfamiliar with these guns, by the end of the video, you'll see how very different they are. But just for anyone who is, I guess, uninitiated, or anyone who thought, well, what's the difference? Is it just a smaller version of a 92? I thought it'd be worth going down that rabbit hole, as I said before. And again, I just like getting them out and showing them to you. The guns, that is. Both have a hole through the hammer at the rear there. I wouldn't really call it skeletonized, although I guess that is the term that we use. It's just a hole through it. It's not like the whole hammer is necessarily skeletonized, but yeah, that hole is there to, as far as I'm aware, just reduce hammer weight without diminishing the kind of the integrity of the hammer itself. Neither of the guns feature rails at the front, as you will see. They're kind of conspicuous by their absence, which is one of the reasons I really love both of these replicas. These kind of hail from a time before torches and lasers and red dots and paraphernalia like that. So although both guns have quite a kind of a rugged look to them, they both look like kind of chunky, meaty firearms. There's also that element of the classic about them, with those sort of straight, clean lines towards the front end of the pistol. And on that score, it's that's one of the things that I've always loved about the styling of the Beretta, especially the 92. There's that broader styling. It's a really nice contrast. It's a different feel to something like, if I bring out my 1911 here, this is the Special Combat, another Umrex gun, but you've got that really quite slimline profile to the 1911, which makes it feel very different when you're holding it and when you're pointing it to the feel of something like the more chunky 92 FS. The 1911 is my favourite handgun, but I think it has to be second place goes to the 92 in terms of its kind of icon status, certainly within the world of semi-autos, I would say. I won't start comparing them to the Colt single action and the Python and all of that. We'll stay in our wheelhouse here. Some say that the kind of the exposed slide is to reduce weight, although I've also heard other people say because of that exposed barrel, they had to add weight on the side of the slide to give it a bit more rigidity. I don't know about that really. So you tell me. Most of this video is kind of me going to be saying to you, here's what I don't know. Please can you help me fill in the blanks? But either way, that size is apparent in the when you take hold of the guns, that width there, and certainly at the rear end of the pistols, you do notice that sort of difference in size. Although the 92FS does have kind of a contour here between the sort of the rear of the handle, if you will, moving around and sort of linking it up to the beaver tail, so you can get up and in there at the rear of the gun, which is useful to get your finger right up there. I still, if that were a working slide catch, which in this case it isn't, I'd probably struggle with this particular model. This feels really particularly hefty, which is why I guess some people would prefer the newer Vertec frame featured on the M9A3 here. And as well as that, it's featured on the newly released 80X, which is the kind of the new version of the 84, the Model 84. So I'll show you a picture of that. But here we've got a more straight kind of profile to the grip, which allows people with smaller hands to have a bit more reach. It's still, a bit of travel to that catch, but you can see there I can easily reach that on the M9A3, as opposed to if I hold the 92FS. Oh, do you know what? If I hold it properly, it's not that bad. it does feel easier. I do feel closer to it here on the M9A3. I don't know. I mean, that feels very comfortable. I do like something about that shape, though. It's a lovely gun as well. They do make some fantastic guns, Beretta, and in turn, so do Umrex. Thanks, Umrex. I'm not on the cadge or anything. Just to make that clear. Although, if you want, I mentioned on the review of the Model 84 that even though it appears to have quite a compact look to the pistol, it does feel the business when it's in your hands. When you have that in your hands and you're shooting it, it does feel like you're holding perhaps a larger pistol because of the sort of the width of that grip and just the shape of it generally. I think it just feels like quite a bit in the hand. Both guns feature these what you might call FS style trigger guards, often referred to as squared off, but actually there's a lovely continuation of the curves of the pistol here. The way that it doesn't just stop at vertical, but it swoops forward a little bit also. If you compare that to the more traditional design of the earlier 92 pistols or the Beretta 81, for example, and then compare that to the actual kind of squared off guard from the M9A3 once again, I think again it's a little more flamboyant somehow. It just feels, I don't know if I'm so fond of these just because of what they represent in terms of the movies that they've featured in and that part of my life where these were synonymous with like the hero in the film and stuff. I don't know if I'm looking back through rose tinted glasses, but the styling of them is, for me, it's something else. Incidentally, it was actually Taurus that introduced that shape first of all on its PT92. This is a KWC PT92, and you can see there that shape is in existence on the Taurus. I put my teeth in. And I think it was Taurus that did it first, and then Beretta kind of followed suit. For any of you that aren't aware, the short story is Beretta kind of opened a plant in Brazil to manufacture Model 92s for the Brazilian military. And when they closed the plant, Taurus continued to make the gun as the patents and licenses, etc. had expired. So they were able to make the gun themselves without kind of breaching any rules or anything like that. And then over time, they made their own adjustments. I don't even know if they used the same factory, or if they just moved the equipment and things to their own factory somewhere else in Brazil. But yeah, like I said, they made their own adjustments over time, and that extension, if you will, to the trigger guard is one of them, along with the safety being put on the sort of the frame rather than the slide there, like on the original 92. Both guns here have a pretty traditional looking black plastic Beretta style grips, both kind of emblazoned with that Beretta logo there. Interestingly, the logo, I don't know if there's anything behind this, but the logo is the same diameter on both guns, which is why it looks a little bit larger on that smaller grip there, but it's the same diameter. It's about 2 centimeters if you were interested. Both grips are shaped so they kind of cut around that mag release button. The button is on the same place on the frame, just in front of the grips, as opposed to the placement on the original 92, where it was actually on the grip. If I show you a picture, you'll see what I mean. Both these pistols have grooves at the front of the grip. The 92 has them at the rear as well, but that's not the case on the 84. So they do feel similar to hold, with those similar kind of grips, similar sort of serrations at the front there. But you can very easily tell when you're holding the 92 over the 84, because of, in this case, the weight and the size in the hand. They do feel significantly different, although there's a familiar feel to both guns. By the way, I know that I said that Taurus had put the safety there on the frame of the gun as opposed to the original Beretta. You can see here on the Beretta it's on the slide, but on the original model of the 92, if I just bring that picture up again, you'll see that the safety originally was on the frame, on that lower frame, rather than housed on the slide, more akin to the way that it is on the Model 84 there. Just another little detail, bit of a factoid for you there. Now the 84, due to its shape, does feature a kind of a slanted dust cover. As I said on the review, it kind of feels a bit more delicate towards the front end of the gun. It kind of tapers from that sort of chunky rear to a more delicate kind of front end. Part of the way it does that is that this dust cover kind of slants up. Earlier 92s had a kind of a flat dust cover, with the later ones featured a more slanted design. I'm not entirely sure which this is. I mean, sometimes at some angles that looks like it's pretty flat, so it looks almost like an earlier 92 FS. And then some other angles, I probably can't find one right now, but sometimes it looks like there's ever such a slight sort of slant to it. I don't know. I guess you'd call that flat. So that's perhaps a replica of an earlier model. So now to the differences. Obviously, there's the colour. While you can get the 92 FS in this nickel, you can also get it in chrome, you can get it in gold, and you can get it in black, which would make it look more similar to the 84 FS. There is no alternative to the 84 FS, so sadly, not in this caliber, which is a real shame, because if I show you a picture of what that might look like, look at what we're missing out on. Let me move that out of the way and throw up a picture of the 84 FS in nickel. I'm sure you'll agree it looks like a really handsome looking gun. Further differences. Well, as I think I mentioned at the start of the video, the 84 was chambered in 380 ACP, or 9mm short, which is a 9x17 round. The 92 was a 9mm, 9x19. In reality, both pistols will be single action, double action. This is single action, double action, or should I say single action, double action. The 84 FS is single action only for some reason. So you can only shoot that in single action. And I had kind of assumed, before kind of looking into it and then purchasing it, I assumed it would function more like other early Umarex BB guns. It's in a way more closely resembling in function something like the Special Combat, which has like a double action and a single action trigger. The irony being the 1911 should be single action only. It shouldn't be able to do that. That would be fine. You know, and racking the slide and then shooting it that way would be fine. But that double action trigger shouldn't happen. So why didn't they make this single action only and this single action double action? I've got no idea. I mean, the Special Combat, for me, it's a great looking gun, but it would have been a far more exciting replica at that point, you know, if it had functioned in a more authentic way to the actual 1911. And we don't talk about the trigger shape anymore. The 92 FS, as I said, is single and double action, but without the moving slide, so the hammer must be cocked manually. I guess the biggest difference between these two guns is the ammunition that they take. The 84 is 4.5mm BB shooter, while the 92 is a .177 pellet shooter. The 84 is, as I sort of showed you before, it's blowback, it's field strippable, it does lock back after that last shot, and it does have a full-size dropout magazine which houses the CO2 as well as the BBs. Pop that back in there. The 92, yeah, it's non-blowback, it's non-field strippable, and it uses one of those rotary mags, which where am I? Which just drops in there. I've shown you that 100 times before, but who knows? This might be the first video of mine that you've seen. So it's a moving slide, but it doesn't move in the way that you would traditionally expect. Other differences then between these two replica air guns, specifically the airgun versions, due to the way the 92 FS pellet gun is loaded, there are these front slide serrations here as well, which allow you, as I showed you, that when that slides open, those serrations allow you to push that back without having to flag the muzzle of the gun, which is a good thing, but I don't think they would exist on the actual 92 FS. Small details, that PB there, that Pietro Beretta logo there exists on both, if you like the look of that, but it's on opposite sides. So it's on the right hand side on the 84, it's on the left hand side on the 92 FS. Both feature that Gardone VT. Forgive my pronunciation, I'm bound to make a hash of that. Gardone VT marking there, which stands for Gardone Valtrompia. Again, please forgive my pronunciation. I'm sure that if you're Italian and you're listening to this now, I've offended you in 100 different ways. So please forgive me. It comes from a good place. It's a region in Italy which was kind of historically known for iron mining, and then later on kind of weapon manufacture. And then Beretta, you see where it says Gardone there? That is the village within the region. So that's where the original Beretta business, founded by, here we go, Bartolomeo Beretta, is it? They made gun barrels specifically. The business was kind of handed down through the family until about 1815, where one Pietro Beretta decided they should make the move to manufacturing complete weapons. And then years later, a different Pietro Beretta introduced kind of different, more modern production techniques and increased the size of the factory by kind of more than 3 times. I think it was about 3 times the size, and then they really started meaning business in the firearms world. Enough history, let's get back to the guns. Both of these guns have slide catchers in the same place, but they're obviously kind of different in shape, and obviously it's a non-functioning slide catch there on the 92 FS. Takedown levers are on opposite sides also. For the 84 FS, the takedown lever is kind of it's on the right hand side here, but you'd have to push a button on the left hand side, allowing that to sort of drop down, and then you can actually take down this pistol. On the 92 FS, you'd have to push that button here, and that, rather than releasing your slide as it does on the pellet version, that would be your takedown lever. That is the right shape. It doesn't do anything on this pellet version, but that is the right shape, that kind of oval shape, as opposed to, if I show you the 92A1, also by Umarex, you can see that the takedown button is a sort of a circle there rather than that oval shape, and the way it would work is you just push that, it releases that, and you can drop the takedown lever and take your slide off. So the 84 FS isn't just a smaller version of the 92. It's a different gun in its own right and with its own identity. You know, it's not like the difference between a Glock 17 and a Glock 19, for example, wherein, you know, so much of the way that those guns function is kind of identical. Both of these replicas are fantastic, but like the real steel, they are very different. So if it's shot accuracy and economy of use when it comes to CO2, you'll want the 92 FS chambered for .177 caliber pellets with its non-blowback design and rifled barrel. And in fact, pellet-wise, this is pretty much the only 92 in town as far as I'm aware. If it's accuracy of function that you're after from a replica perspective, then the 84 gives you far more to play with due to that blowback, you know, the ability to take it down and so on and so forth. It's just, there's more to play with there from a replica perspective. If it's that 92 style size that you're after when looking to buy a replica airgun of this type, then I would look no further than the 92 A1. It's a good mix of both, you know, with its heavy metal design, fully functional, field strippable and all that. So it does everything that the 84 FS does and more. This, you can fully field strip this, take the barrel out and everything. Full blowback, full heavy weight, and it's kind of that same size. You know, it's the 92 style pistol. You know, one of my only criticisms of the 84 is that hollow mag with the tab on the bottom. It's not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination, but the 92 A1 does kind of deal with that. It's got a full size mag. It's got a fully enclosed mag, and you've got kind of a hidden hex screw at the bottom there. There's no tabs sticking out or anything like that. So that's why that's such a popular gun, and certainly one of my favourites. There is also that M9A3 here in flat dark earth, or you can get it in black. There's a new version coming out which is kind of black and grey. There's a green and black version coming out, and there's the silver and black kind of inox version out soon, if not now. And if it's that grip, that kind of Vertex style grip that you prefer, then again you've got a 92 style pistol with a bit more of a modern take on the grip. All of those things are available to you if you're looking for a 92 style pistol. If you're after a more compact replica that has all the bells and whistles, then of course the 84 may suit you better. And then of course there's the cost. Here in the UK, the 84 FS will set you back about 140 quid. So it's by far the cheapest Beretta that we've looked at today. The 92 A1 and the M9A3, they'll probably cost you about 180 quid here in the UK. The FS, the 92 FS pellet, you're looking at around 200 quid for the black one. More if you go for the nickel version or the chrome version. More again if you go for the gold version. You know, if you go for this, you can get a version with wood grips, which is kind of over £300. And then even more than that for the extreme version, which I'll show you a picture of. It has kind of a sight on the top. I think it's a red dot, and it has a kind of a faux suppressor sticking out of the front as well. So it's a kind of a bit of a bells and whistles version, if you will. If you just like the style of these types of guns, if you like that kind of Beretta styling, then consider something like the PT92 by, well, a number of people make a similar gun. It's a replica, not of a Beretta, but of a Taurus. You can tell that because of that positioning of that safety there. You can tell because of the slide serrations there, this extended mag kind of looking here. It's a Taurus replica, but by extension, it's kind of it's a Beretta replica because of that as well. So yeah, consider this. This is the KWC version. I know that Swiss Arms do a version, Crossman do a version, Milbro do a version. There's also things like the Crossman Mako, which looks like a Beretta. There's the Beretta Elite 2, which is, I think, mainly a kind of a polymer BB gun. There's the Crossman PFM 16, if you prefer the Model 84. The PFM 16 is a kind of a replica in a way of the Model 81, although it doesn't really do much other than shoot the BBs. It's more like the I guess like the Glock 19 or the Colt Defender from that point of view. It's full metal and it looks just like a Beretta 81, but it doesn't do very much. But because of that, it's probably going to save you a bit of money. So if you just like the look of these guns, there's plenty of option out there. Right, I think that's it. Both great guns. I've really loved bringing them out again. So thanks for giving me a reason to do that. Thanks for joining me once again today on the channel. Please do like, share, subscribe, hit the bell. As always, you know, all the best. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.